Make exceptionalism your standard. We do everything with exceptionalism. If you're gonna cook dinner tonight, be exceptional. My kids, I asked them what they wanted for dinner tonight. They said, we want spaghetti. That's gonna be the best bowl of spaghetti they ever had. If I show up ready to do this podcast, you can see the lighting's right, the audio's right. I just bought some new equipment that I'm gonna be testing this weekend to make it even better because I want to show up exceptionally. Several years ago, I wrote a book called The Masculinity Manifesto with the subtitle, How a Man Builds Influence, Credibility, and Authority. And specifically today, I want to unpack the influence equation, the influence factor in that equation, I should say, because I really believe that as a man, it's our job to build and forge and develop a level of influence with the people that we want to serve. If you have no influence, then you cannot possibly serve anyone. I think influence gets a bit of a bad rap. I think a lot of people tend to think that being influential might have some sort of negative manipulation component to it. And I don't believe that's the case at all, because we're dealing with people who get to decide whether or not they're going to be influenced by you. And by the way, they are going to be influenced by you, whether they want to or not. They're going to learn things about you. They're going to read into you. They're going to make decisions based on how you show up and how you respond. And if you show up in a negative, destructive way, they're going to be influenced by that. If you show up in a positive, constructive way, they're also going to be influenced by that. So today I'm going to share with you 10 ways to become more influential in the lives of those you care about, your wife, your kids, your colleagues, your coworkers, your friends, your neighbors, whoever you are trying to serve. You cannot serve people unless you develop and build influence. Now, of these 10 things, some of you guys are probably going to agree with everything. Some of you are probably going to question some. And I would issue you a challenge to be able to have a constructive, valuable conversation, not only about the topics I'm going to share with you today, but anything else that you might think that maybe I missed or overlooked. So let's just jump right into it today. Number one, and these are in no particular order, but when it comes to developing and building influence with other people, number one is to build strength and lean muscle mass. Now, I know that this is probably a weird place to start, but I start here on purpose because when it comes to the way that you show up, oftentimes your visual appearance is the first thing that people are going to see. And if you're fat, obese, overweight, slobby, a little bit soft around the midsection, people are just naturally going to draw some conclusions about that. They're going to draw conclusions that you're not disciplined, that you have no goals. They're probably going to draw conclusions that you're lazy. Now, you might say, well, none of that is fair. Fair has nothing to do with the way that people interpret the way that you show up. There's something called the Adonis Index. And the Adonis Index, if you guys want to look this up, it's a ratio. It's a shoulder to waist ratio. And the Adonis Index is measured as 1 to 1.618 ratio, meaning that your shoulders should be, for your waist being 1, your shoulders should be 1.618. Now, is that exactly right? No, but the principle is the same, that you need to have big, broad shoulders, lean waist, trim, strong, fit, and people are going to make some inferences about you and how you're going to show up and how you're going to serve them and how you lead yourself. So we should all be striving towards that Adonis Index, the 1 to 1.618, and making sure that we're eating correctly, that we're lifting weights. Running is not enough. Cardio is not enough. Soft little HIIT workouts are not enough. You need to actually go move really, really heavy weight. Now, I know if you have different goals and objectives, that might be different. But generally speaking, you ought to be as a baseline, be sitting around with big, broad shoulders, large chest, lean waist, and that's going to really say a lot about how you show up. Now, I'm not telling you by any means that I'm perfect on any of this. These are things that I'm working on, but that Adonis Index is something that I'm going to be working towards. All right, number 2, because we're talking about physical appearance. Again, it's not all about physical appearance. I'm going to go through some other things here shortly, but most of the time when people first meet you, they're going to make impressions or references or assumptions based on the way you look. So lean, strong, fit, dense muscle mass, that's what they're looking at. Number 2 is they're going to look at your clothes. All right, they're going to see if you can match your clothes with your age. 3 factors here: your age, okay, the occasion, and your build. So your age, the occasion, and your build. I see grown men who are 45, 50 years old, and they're wearing these overly washed out jeans with different patterns. They're bejazzled and bejeweled on the back pockets, and they have like unnecessary stitching. They wear the what's the American Fighter or whatever brand that's called clothes, and they're trying to make themselves look younger than they are. A lot of the times these are fit guys. They're relatively handsome men, and they're wearing clothes that just make them look like teenagers, or not even like teenagers, that they're trying to look like teenagers. Guys and gals, I would say, dress your age, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, dress your age. Okay, that doesn't mean you need to, ladies, wear a muumuu out in public by any means, or for men to wear a 3-piece suit everywhere you go because that's how your grandpa did it. I'm not saying that. But dress your age, okay? Wear jeans that fit. Wear clothes that are at least in your decade. That's not to say you can't be stylish. You can, but dress your age, okay? Ladies, you don't need to look like a young prepubescent teenager. It looks foolish. It looks silly. Guys, same thing for you. If I were to dress like one of my sons, I would look like a complete idiot. And I often tell my sons they look like idiots as well, but you guys get the point. Let's dress your age. Also, the occasion. Okay, you don't need to wear a 3-piece suit everywhere you go. If the situation calls for it and you're walking the red carpet, sure. If it's a black tie affair, sure. If you're going in for a job interview and it's a blue-collar job and you wear a 3-piece suit, everybody's going to laugh at you and mock you. Of course they are. So if that's what it is, wear a nice pair of work boots that you cleaned and conditioned the night before that don't have holes where the steel toes are. Wear a pair of jeans that isn't wholly gross and disgusting and dirty, but that fits you, that's clean, that looks nice. Wear a button-up t-shirt. It doesn't need to be something James Bond would wear, but wear a button-up, short-sleeve, collared shirt. Tuck in if it's appropriate. Wear a nice leather belt and show up looking good, but also looking the part. Always dress one level above what you're currently doing. I just had a conversation with somebody not too long ago where they had said that the man in their life had talked about showing up for dates, first dates, in a suit. Like, guys, don't do that, okay? I know what you're trying to do, but what you need to do is not only dress for the occasion, but just one level above, not 10 levels above, just one level above. And regarding build, I know a lot of guys that are more heavy set. Maybe they're obese, maybe they're fat, maybe they just have a few pounds around the midsection, and they'll buy and wear baggy clothes because they think it hides it. You're not hiding anything, okay? We all know what's going on. If you are a little bit overweight, wearing clothes that fit actually will make you look leaner. Get the right patterns. Vertical stripes, not horizontal. That makes you look bigger. Dark colors, preferably black, but always wear clothes that fit you. They need to fit around the arms, fit in the shoulders, fit in the waist, length of jeans. It should all fit. It should all go together. I know I've spent 20% of the time talking on your physical appearance, but guys, stop overlooking this. So many guys will say, oh, that's not important. That shouldn't be important. I don't care what should or shouldn't be. I care what is. And people are making opinions and decisions based on the way you look. Get lean, get strong, build muscle. We don't want wiry, little flimsy spaghetti arms. We don't want baggy, gross clothes that look like our sons picked those out for us. We want clothes that fit. We want to look the part. We want to play the part. We want to be the part. All right, now let's get into the meat of this. So number 3, learn to communicate well. I think one of the things that I'm very good at is taking complex concepts and breaking them down into the simplest form. 10 ways to make yourself more influential is a prime example of that. That's something I'm really good at. I can take those concepts, I can break them down, I can share them in a very user-friendly, easy to digest manner, and it helps people see. I don't beat around the bush. I don't drone on and on about things, subject to interpretation on that one. Some of you guys might think I talk too long, but learn to communicate well. And this is the most important thing about communication. You don't get to decide if you're communicating well. Guess who gets to decide? The people that you're communicating with. So if you're trying to communicate with your kids and you think you're a great communicator, but they're not doing what you say, or they're not buying into what you believe, then you're not a great communicator, because they're the only ones who get to decide that in that moment. Your wife gets to decide that. Your clients get to decide that. Your colleagues and your coworkers, your boss, they get to decide that. So I would spend more time and attention and energy on how people are responding to you rather than me worrying about how well I'm communicating. And I can just look, is this a person who's bored? When I'm talking with them, are they distracted? Are they disengaged? Are they yawning? Are they rolling their eyes? That's a person who's not engaged in the conversation. That's not their problem. That's yours if you're trying to communicate a message. Read people, read the room, as they say. Okay, I can't tell you how often I talk with people, and some of these people I actually really, really like, where I'm giving them all the cues like, okay, sounds good, that's good to see you, glad to hear from you. And they just won't get the hint that the conversation's over. That's not my fault. Now, maybe I need to be a little bit more clear in those circumstances, but if you want to resonate with me and you want to be influential, then you dang well better understand the social cues that are happening. If somebody's leaning into you and they're nodding their head and their eyes are a little wider and they're engaging in the conversation, you know you're communicating well with them. If they're sitting back and they look bored or distracted, or they're looking around, or they're giving the clues of like, hey, good to see you, thanks, appreciate it, yeah, it's all like everything's good. Like, read it. Okay. Have a little insight. Understand what is happening in the environment around you. Stop being so self-absorbed. Read the room. What are people looking for from you? Now, everybody's different. Some people are going to want a lot more explanation. Some people are going to want get down to brass tacks. Some people are going to want to catch up about the weather and small talk. Other people are going to want to dive deep into meaningful and significant conversations. You're a grown man. You can figure that out. But you can't do that unless you're willing to read how other people are responding to you. And if you want to be influential in their life, then you'll consider that. All right. Number 4. Make a note here on my notes. Make fun of yourself on occasion. Okay. Self-deprecation is an amazing tool. It breaks down walls. It breaks down barriers. It lets people know that you don't take yourself so seriously. It lets them see that you're not driven by your ego. It's okay to beat yourself up a little bit. Now, I would not take that to the extreme, because then it might come across as insecurity, and that's not effective communication. But if somebody says, hey, you know what? Yeah, you talk a lot. You're like, you should see what I talk, how often I talk with people I like. Okay, or like make jokes, laugh, enjoy life a little bit. I've had people say, hey, Ryan, I can't believe you said this or that on social media. You're an idiot. And I said, you know, if only you knew what I say in real life, you'd actually think a whole lot worse of me. That is disarming. I don't need to take everything so seriously. I can lighten up. I can loosen up. This one is actually for me because I tend to be a more serious man by my nature. But just insult yourself every now and then. It catches people off guard and lets them know that you're a human being, that you don't think so highly of yourself, that you can see the humor and the comedy and the way that you show up. You know, my kids always make fun of me for snoring. I don't get defensive about that. I do. And we talk about having snoring contests. They make fun of my cooking. I don't need to get defensive about that. It's not awesome, but I can cook a hell of a bowl of macaroni and cheese. Like, it's just fun. Lighten up a little bit, guys, and just beat yourself up, throw yourself under the bus a little bit, and I think people will resonate with you a little bit more deeply. The next two are things that you should get good at saying specifically. We talked a little bit about communication, but number one is this, and this is, I guess, point number 5 in this ways to be more influential. Get good at saying, I don't know. I think when we're as men are trying to be influential, we're trying to lead, whether it's our families or in our professional aspirations and our careers, we want to know everything. Nobody expects you to know everything. Okay, your kids don't expect you to have it all figured out. Your wife doesn't expect you to have it all figured out. Your colleagues, your clients, your coworkers, your neighbors, whoever, they do not expect you to have it all figured out. But one thing they do want from you is honesty. So get good at saying, I don't know. If one of your clients asks you a question and you don't know the answer, just say it. I don't know. Don't make up some bullshit because they're going to see right through it. I remember in my financial planning practice, which is my business before Order of Man, which I started in 2015, I thought that I had to have all the answers. And when I realized that I can say, I don't know, but I'll find out, I really felt a deeper connection with my clients. Nobody was insulted. Nobody thought less of me. Nobody thought that I wasn't their guy, so to speak. Anytime I said, you know what, that's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that, but I have a man in my office who does, or I have a resource available to me, or if I've invested in this coaching, I'm going to call my coach and ask him about that. Every single person I ever said anything like that to was always more respectful of me, more influence with them, because I was honest. And isn't that what people want? We all want honesty. Don't fuck around. Okay, like don't tell me you know how to do something if you don't know how to do it. Because guess what? 2 things. Number 1, I'm going to see it. If you tell me I can do something but you can't, I already know you can't do it just by the way you're answering the question. And number 2, even if I let you do it, I'm going to be sadly disappointed because it's not going to show up and perform the way that I need that thing to perform. Don't do that to people. Just be honest. Okay, now honesty isn't always comfortable, right? If you have to tell your client, I don't know, that's not a comfortable thing. But you know what happens is when you say, I don't know, and you truly don't know, what people do, this is what they do in their brains. And this is well researched, by the way. So that what they actually do in their brains is they say to themselves, well, I may not have liked that answer, but I know he's going to be truthful and honest with me. And because he's going to be truthful and honest with me, I know that I can trust him. Think about it for yourself. Anytime anybody said, like if you went to the mechanic and you brought your truck in, and let's say it's having a hard time starting occasionally, which is what my 2015 3/4 ton GMC is doing right now. I brought it to the mechanic, and the mechanic says, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't think they're incompetent. Especially if they say, hey, we brought this guy in or we're going to look at it. We're running these diagnoses on it. I don't think less. I actually think they're going to be honest with me. So the next time I go in and the guy said for an oil change and the guy says, hey, we got your oil change, but I noticed your driver's side rear tire needs to be replaced. I'm actually going to believe him because I know he's not bullshitting me. See, we think that if we don't know that people are just going to, run away from us? No, they're actually going to start believing you because you're a man of your word. You tell the truth. And so when you make a recommendation, they're actually going to believe it because they should, because you're truthful and you're honest. All right, the next one here, and this is point number 6. I said point number 5 was getting good at saying, I don't know. Point number 6 is get good at saying, I don't agree with that. Okay, if somebody says something to you, let's say you're talking with your wife about something one of the kids is dealing with. You know, school's just getting started for a lot of people across the country. And let's say they have a bad day. Maybe the teacher's not a great teacher, and little Timmy's having a hard time, and your wife says, I really want to go talk to the teacher. And you're like, don't go talk to the teacher. Let this play out. Let little Timmy figure it out for a minute. You can say that. You should say that. Don't ever refrain from saying what you need to say, especially on the things that are important. So if your wife says, I'm going to go talk to the teacher, say, whoa, I don't agree with that. Let me explain why. Now, you don't need to dig in your heels. You don't need to make it a worse situation. But if you tell people your opinion, even though you don't agree with theirs, again, this goes back to the trust thing. I want people in my corner I can trust. I don't need yes men. I call them bobbleheads. You stick a bobblehead on your dashboard of your vehicle, and what does the bobblehead do? It's like up and down, their head up and down, regardless of what bump or what turn or whatever else you go through, up and down. The bobblehead is just bobbing. That's some of you. You don't need to be a bobblehead, okay? You don't need to agree with everything your wife says. You don't need to agree with everything your children say. You don't need to agree with everything your boss says. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a very clear way to be tactical about this, to exercise some tact, to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble with your wife or your kids or your boss or whoever it might be. But it's okay not to agree, respectfully. So if your wife's like, hey, we should do this, hold on, babe. I like where your head's at. I know you want to serve little Timmy, and that's important to both of us, but I actually don't agree with that. And here's why. And then make your case. If your boss comes to you and says, hey, you know what, Steve, we've got this thing going on, we've got this initiative, and we need to do X, Y, and Z. And in your mind, you're like, I see it completely different. Man, what if you had the balls to say, hey, boss, I might do this privately, by the way, okay? We don't want to call our bosses out in front of other people. But I might sit down with my boss, and I might call him and say, hey, boss, you talked about it at the conference this morning, and man, I had some thoughts I wanted to share with you just based on some experience I've had. Are you okay with that? And he's going to say, yeah, I'm good with that. We can meet today at 3:00. And so you go into his office at 3:00. Remember, it's just you and him. That's the caveat. And you say, hey, boss, you said this thing about this initiative, and I've been thinking about it all day. I don't agree with it. I think what you're trying to accomplish is right, but the one thing I've seen based on where I'm in the department and what I've seen from other people is that this thing also needs to be addressed. And so I would say, what if we took your solution and we just added this component to it, or tweaked this, or adjusted that? Be smart, okay? This is sensitive territory. Be smart. But I think that most bosses, I do believe this, that most bosses would, if you did it properly and you did it in private, would say, I haven't considered that before, or I didn't think about that. That's interesting. Tell me more. And what you end up doing is building more credibility and influence with your boss than just sitting back and being that bobblehead that we talked about. Yes, boss, whatever you say, boss, because you know what's going to happen? You already know the project's going to fail. Don't let it fail. Do what you need to do to ensure that it doesn't. All right. Number 7. Yes, 7. Be ruthlessly consistent. It's really important, men, that when we show up for people, that we aren't scatterbrained, that the way we show up today isn't the way that we show up tomorrow, and that we always show up with a unified response. This is hard. This is very hard. And I'll give you just a very broad example. I've got 4 kids, 3 sons and a daughter. And my sons and my daughter, they know how to trigger me. I don't know that they're doing it on purpose, but they know how to push the buttons. Maybe they are. And I have to be very deliberate and intentional about the way that I respond to them, especially in those moments of being triggered, because the last thing I want is to show up in a way that isn't conducive to their growth and their development as children who are working to become young adults. If I lose my cool, if I get offended, if I get upset, if I fly off the handle, and I've done all of those things. I'm not saying I haven't, that doesn't bolster influence with them. What bolsters influence is knowing that every time they come talk to me, whether it's they won the grand prize at the science fair or they got sent to the principal's office for bullying a kid today, if they know that they're always going to get the same dad, whether it's something positive or something negative, that's going to build and elicit a level of trust and influence with them. Rudyard Kipling talks about it in his poem, If, and he talks, I'm obviously paraphrasing here, but he talks about a man's ability to meet both failure and triumph with the same level of response. If you can do that with your kids, you will have much more influence with them. If you can do that with your boss, your clients, whoever you might be interacting with, and you're always the same guy across the board, everybody's going to bet on you because they know how you're going to show up. By the way, that also applies if you're an asshole, always. If you're always the asshole, they're never going to go to you because they know you're always going to be that person. But if you're always the steadfast rock that we as men are designed to be and called to be, then I think they're going to have more trust and influence with you. All right. Number 8, make exceptionalism your standard. We do everything with exceptionalism. If you're going to cook dinner tonight, be exceptional. My kids, I asked them what they wanted for dinner tonight. They said, we want spaghetti. That's going to be the best bowl of spaghetti they ever had. If I show up ready to do this podcast, you can see the lighting's right. The audio's right. I just bought some new equipment that I'm going to be testing this weekend to make it even better because I want to show up exceptionally. When I play with my kids, I'm fully present. My phone's not with me because that's not exceptional. When I go to work, I already know what I'm going to do throughout the day because that's what it requires to be exceptional. When I have a podcast interview and I'm interviewing another man, I'm prepared and ready to go. And I show up 5 minutes early because that's exceptional. Exceptionalism is the standard. Not maybe, not I'm showing up a little late, not they'll forgive me, not, oh, it's not a big deal. No, exceptionalism in all things, in all ways. When you get up in the morning, you get right up. When you groom yourself and brush your teeth and shower and you trim your beard and you brush your teeth and you make sure you have good breath and you look the best for when you're ready to go into work. When you go into work and you get in your car, it's not a pigsty. There's not wrappers and bullshit and trash and all sorts of nonsense left over. No, it's clean and it's neat and it's orderly and it's organized because exceptionalism is the standard. You go wash your truck and you get it detailed and you pay attention to those details. You show up to work on time, ready to do what needs to be done. You have good conversations with good people. When people try to distract you, even if it's unintentional, you have boundaries in place that say, hey, I'd love to talk with you. I can't do it right now because I got work to do. But we can talk today over lunch at noon. Would you like to do that? And then when you go to lunch with those people, you actually sit down and you pay attention to them. You're thoughtful about where you're going. You're thoughtful about what you're eating. Because you're exceptional. Everything is done with an exceptionalism. And by the way, if you're not going to be exceptional with it, just don't do it. I'm not saying you need to be the best, because that's what a lot of people hear. Ryan said, I need to be the best at everything I do. No, I'm not saying that at all. If I went to go play a pickup game of basketball with my buddies tonight, I would not be the best basketball player there. In fact, it's a very high likelihood that I'd be the worst basketball player there. But you know what I'll do? Show up on time, wear the appropriate attire. I'll look good while I'm doing it. I'll be a good team player. I'll communicate effectively. When I miss the layup or miss a bad shot or miss a pass, I'll make fun of myself. As we talked about in point number 3 or 4 is that self-deprecation. I'm going to be exceptional. I'm going to be the best mediocre pickup game of basketball player ever. And you should be that too. You should always be exceptional. Not the best, exceptional. Subjective, exceptional at what you do. All right, number 9, Follow through on your commitments. That's it. If you say you're going to be there at noon, be there at noon. If you say you're going to do a thing, do a thing. If you tell somebody that they can count on you, make sure they count on you. If you say you're going to do some research on a project or a product or whatever it might be, you better well do that. If you don't, you're undermining your influence, and people are going to start to realize it, and they're going to say, this is a guy, even subconsciously, this is a guy who can't be trusted. I can tell him to do things, I can tell him I want things, but at the end of the day, I can't rely on him because I don't know if he's going to show up. Is that you? It has been me. And in some instances, it still is. My son, my youngest son, is really good at calling me out on this. He'll say, for example, Dad, you said, and you know what? He's right. I did say, so I ought to do. And if I'm not going to do, then I shouldn't say. So, for example, he wants to earn some money for some Pokemon cards. That's what he really wants right now. And last night he said, hey, Dad, can I clean the house in the morning? And I thought about it. I'm like, that sounds pretty good. I'd love him to clean the house. And my knee-jerk reaction was, I want to say yes to him. But I thought to myself, you know what? I've got an Iron Council call in the morning. The kids need to get ready for the day. I've got to organize a few things. I've got to get ready for the day. And so the answer is no, because I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to give them tasks and assignments and hold them account. I'm not going to do it. So I said, hey, bud, I love that you want to clean the house, but no, we're not going to do that this morning, but we'll do it tonight. And when he gets here this evening, then you better believe that that's exactly what we're going to do, because I said so. We talked about this on our Brotherhood call, the Iron Council this morning, this idea of accountability. And the highest tier of accountability is doing the things that you said you would do because you said you would do them. Not because you have a system in place, not because you know somebody else is going to check in on you. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the highest tier of accountability is you're going to do a thing because you said you would do it. So if you said, hey, you know what, Saturday morning, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go run 5 miles. And then you wake up, and you're like, it's late, I'm tired, I'm comfortable, I had a long week, and so I'm not going to do that today. Nope, wrong answer. You are going to do it because last night you said you were, and especially if you communicated it to other people, because they're going to see you. Your wife's going to see that last night you said, I'm going to go run 5 miles, and this morning you woke your ass up and you didn't go run. Your kids are going to see that. They might be disappointed that you're not going to have a donut with them in the morning like you normally do, but you know what they're going to believe is that Dad is a man of his word. Do the shit you say you're going to do, always. All right, the last one here, guys. This one is for me more than anybody else. Number 10, laugh, smile, and be more light. Laugh, smile, and be more light. Not everything is catastrophic. Not everything is the end of the world. Not everything ought to be taken to the level of seriousness that you make it. Just lighten up, okay? I need to do this. Joke, laugh, play, smile, tease, wrestle, tickle your kids. Like, these are the things that are important. Like, just enjoy life a little bit more. Be lighthearted. Laugh at yourself. Laugh at other people. Diffuse situations. It's okay. It's okay. 44 years old now. God willing, I've halfway through my life. And I'm a serious person by nature, but I think lighthearted people are often just trusted a little bit more. And by the way, when I say lighthearted, I don't mean flippant. Because I know people like that. They're lighthearted, they're fun. I really enjoy them, but I can't trust them. It's not what I'm saying. I want lighthearted people in my life who I know will actually get things done. You can have both. You should be both. So be more lighthearted. So those are my 10 ways to make yourself more influential. And I did put a little bonus on here because I thought about this after I came up with my 10. And here it is. Never let people see you sweat. Never let them see you sweat. Nothing is hard. If you're really struggling at work, you're a leader and you're really struggling getting the project done, your job is to diffuse, to de-escalate, to make everything lighter. And then if you need to complain or vent, complain to a peer, complain higher, never complain lower. Never let people see you sweat. I remember when I was playing sports, if I got frustrated, or in wrestling, if I got hurt, or even jiu-jitsu, like when when training jiu-jitsu, if somebody catches you, maybe they've got you dead to rights. They've got you in a solid arm bar, or they have you in a Kimura. Don't scramble around like a chicken with his head cut off. Like, just relax. Don't let them see you sweat, because I've had this happen more often than not. Is they got me in a, let's say, Kimura that's kind of like 60 to 70% there, but I'm not flailing around and flopping around and like showing my cards. And you know what people do in that case, a lot of the times, is they stop because they don't think it's working. It was working. I just didn't let people see me sweat. When my kids are busting my ass about whatever it might be because they're kids, I don't need to lose my cool. Those are kids. I don't need to let them see me sweat. I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm collected. And it's like the James Bond of fatherhood, or the James Bond of your career aspirations, or being a husband. Like, we all ought to take some lessons from that. Like, be cool, be calm, be collected. You can lose your mind later. You can break down later. You can cry if you have to later, but don't do it now. Never let them see you sweat. All right, guys, those were my 10 plus 1 lessons for making yourself more influential. If I missed anything, or if I'm off on anything, let me know in the comments. We're very active on Apple Podcasts, but also I've seen Spotify really growing. We have over 100,000 people who are subscribed to this show on Spotify. And I'd love to double that. I'd love to get to 200,000. But if we strive for 200,000, we only get to 150, I'm good with that too. So if you haven't yet, subscribe. The other cool thing about Spotify is that you can leave reviews and comments. And another cool thing on Spotify is that we are now starting to upload all of our videos. So if you follow us on Spotify, not only can you get the audio, but you can also get the video podcast available, not on YouTube, but directly on Spotify. So head over there. If you go to orderman.com/Spotify, you'll find it. All right, guys, make yourself influential in all ways. You have your marching orders. I gave you 10 plus 1 ways to make yourself more influential. I hope you do, and I hope this serves you. And if you have any feedback for me, let me know. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.